Taylor Sinople here with my picks for the 16 best films of 2016. It's been an interesting year, to say the least, a frustrating year for a lot of people, and so there's no better time really for a bit of escapism, and I think the movies really delivered on that this year. Documentaries were particularly strong in 2016, and we'll get into a few of those soon. And those, along with the best narrative films, made for a really balanced year with plenty of options to both escape reality or confront it. All right, I've already spent way too much time fiddling with the ranking here, so let's just jump right in with a clip from my number 16 pick. It's my favorite comedy of the year.
Ricky Baker, now you are 13 years old. You are a teenager and you're as good as gold. Ricky Baker, Ricky Baker, happy birthday. Once rejected, now accepted by me and Hector. We're a trifecta. Ricky Baker, Ricky Baker, Ricky Baker, Ricky Baker, Ricky Baker, Ricky Baker, Ricky Baker.
Hooray!
Director Taika Waititi has the funniest film of the year 2 years running. Last year's What We Do in the Shadows was a vampire mockumentary, funny enough to make you forget about how sick of vampires you probably were. And this year he's back with Hunt for the Wilder People. It's the story of a troubled 13-year-old's adventure on the run in the New Zealand wild with his adopted father. Waititi makes huge storytelling improvements here over the more sketch-oriented structure of his last film. This one has real heart, plenty of pathos, and a charming, fast-paced comedic sensibility that blends moments of unexpected absurdity, dry humor, and plenty of pop culture references. It's a comedy that's much more than the sum of its funniest bits, even though they are seriously hilarious.
Where are you, Ricky Baker?
You're gonna be okay.
Tower is a unique animated documentary capturing the events of the 1966 University of Texas clock tower shootings as they unfolded. What director Keith Maitland has done here is recorded all of his interviews with survivors of the shooting and then casted younger actors to perform those interviews to camera. That footage and all of the footage recreating the event are rotoscope animated, an effect that you might have seen before in Richard Linklater's Waking Life or A Scanner Darkly. The effect is one pretty similar to what the musical Hamilton is up to. History comes out of the cobwebs. The presentation is in real time, and hearing the stories of fear and confusion and heroism from the people who were there through the performances of actors that are the age those people were in 1966 just adds so much urgency and clarity to the film and its portrayal of real events. It's a powerful document of history, and beyond learning about it, you feel you've really experienced a little bit of it watching Tower.
Guess this is it.
I don't mean to keep you from getting to work or anything. I just knew if I didn't start driving, I wasn't going to see you again. Didn't want that.
This cinematic triptych tells 3 different stories of women living in the Pacific Northwest. Each act is increasingly intimate until we arrive at the wonderful third act, the story of a young educational law teacher played by Kristen Stewart and a rancher who walks into her class played by Lily Gladstone. This final, quiet, and beautiful chunk of the film is by far some of director Kelly Reichardt's best work yet. And the whole film is a great moment of evolution for the director, who is integrating the contemplative personal storytelling of her earlier films like Old Joy, a film that I love, with the increased production values and flashes of genre of her later work like 2013's Night Moves, a film that I'm just lukewarm on. With the best of those 2 modes of production running in full cooperation here, she's made certain women fairly unique to American cinema. It's rough around the edges and polished in the center, and it really works. Director Park Chan-wook of Oldboy fame is back on top of South Korean cinema this year with The Handmaiden. It follows a Korean conman and a young and very talented pickpocket as they enact a complex scheme to rip off a wealthy Japanese woman. But that's just really where the story begins. The film's 2.5 hours, which just flew by the way, are a persistent unwinding of our understanding of those characters and their motivations. Chan-wook takes a vast Victorian setup, sets it in 1930s Korea, and presents it as an elaborate erotic thriller. In other words, like the best of his work, it's absurdly ambitious, ultra-stylized, and perfectly executed. The Handmaiden is over the top, it's full of little revelations and story turns, and it's just so much fun.
People like to believe in fairy tales.
Jackie is Hollywood's primary biopic in a year that's refreshingly low on offerings for that kind of Oscar-made fare, and it's not like many biopics ever made. Jackie is framed as an interview in which Jackie Kennedy, played by Natalie Portman here, is recounting to a reporter the immediate hours following the assassination of her husband. The director is Pablo Larraín, a Chilean filmmaker that we rarely get to see outside of the festival circuit here in the US, and he's going after two stories, one that looks back at grief, and another that looks forward at legacy. Jackie Kennedy was dealing with both simultaneously in the days following her husband's unexpected death, and Natalie Portman, in addition to all the stunning work she's doing here recreating Jackie's cadence and mannerisms, Portman succeeds in conveying that struggle and confusion to process grief while also having to serve as the protector of a president's legacy. It's an art biopic. Dreamy, floating camera work, the intermittently sharp and lush score composed by Mika Levy, who did Under the Skin, and even the more narrow 1.66 aspect ratio all work to create an anxious and atmospheric portrait of an iconic American.
Now, have you thought of what animal you'd like to be if you end up alone?
Yes, a lobster.
A lobster is an excellent choice.
The Lobster opens on the assassination of a donkey and closes with one of the most tense moments I saw in theaters this year. And I'd expect nothing less from Yorgos Lanthimos, the Greek auteur behind the infamously unsettling 2009 film Dogtooth. In between those two plot points in The Lobster is the story of a mandatory dating program for divorcees hosted at a lavish hotel in which the participants must find a mate within 45 days or face being turned into an animal of their choosing. Colin Farrell in the lead role gives one of the year's best and most unexpected performances as a lonely schlub who finds himself in the dating program. Rachel Weisz is also in it as a unique kind of rebel to this world. Altogether, Lanthimos just eviscerates contemporary romantic culture with deadpan black comedy that you'll either find a rhythm with or not. I did, and I loved how The Lobster lulls you into a space of comforting, funny fantasy only to drop bombshells of shocking realism in. I think it's pretty delightful.
Boo! There you are. Boo! Where's Sam? Where's Sam? Where's that little man? Boo! There you are. There you are. Boo! Sam? Samuel!
A family banished from their Puritan town in 17th century New England establishes a new home, where else but on the edge of a vast forest in this fairly terrifying debut feature from new director Robert Eggers. It's the pure immersiveness of The Witch that makes it so damn frightening. Eggers has credits in production design and in costume design, so this is a director that especially understands the value of great art direction. He fills his film with authentic visual details, from dirty and ripped costumes to the lived-in interiors that are just so convincingly built to the period. Altogether, I don't know how well it delivers pitted against the best horror films of all time. It's maybe a little too slow-moving for that conversation, but The Witch is certainly one of the scariest dramas I've ever seen.
I'm not going back.
Risha.
I've earned a right to be at this table.
Speaking of horror films, here's one of a different kind. It's Thanksgiving in the suburbs, and Krisha, a troubled older woman who abandoned her son and disappeared years ago, has returned to reconcile with her family. So it's not a horror film, it's actually a domestic drama, but with the heightened senses of a group of people carrying out the traditions of Thanksgiving on their tiptoes, navigating through the tensions and uncertainty of an estranged family member's return. I'd imagine that situation isn't unfamiliar to some people. As for the production, it's basically the film school dream story. First-time director Trey Edward Schultz, who appears in the film as Krisha's son, shot the film over 9 days in his family's actual house, and casted his own family too, including his aunt in the titular role. And the results he gets are just astounding. Krisha Fairchild, the actress playing Krisha the character, gives a powerhouse performance in one of the year's smaller films. She inspires in us a lot of sympathy for her situation, but also a lot of wariness, which is pretty cool because that's exactly how her family feels about her. There's a lot of visual techniques at play here since the film is pretty deliriously grounded in her point of view, which manifests itself in the form of elaborate long takes, 360-degree pans, shifts in aspect ratio, and even a great climactic sequence when it comes time to cook the turkey. And all of it lands, so check out Krisha to see the birth of a new American director.
You are a lever.
What's the point of Paul in your life now? I was angry with you. Yeah, I know I was slutting around, but you took everything so hard. And now look what I've done. I've thrown you this square. Yeah, you're square. Marianne, he's a square bear.
In a bigger splash, Tilda Swinton can't talk, and Ralph Fiennes can hardly stop talking. It's a weird, genre-bending, romantic thriller travel comedy film from Italian director Luca Guadagnino, with really a bit of everything in it. The plot involves the romantic entanglements of an iconic musician played by Tilda Swinton, who's recovering from a serious vocal surgery in a vacation retreat with her boyfriend, played by Matthias Schoenaerts, when her producer ex-boyfriend, Ralph Fiennes, shows up with his newly discovered daughter, and she's played by Dakota Johnson. So as you can imagine, there's a whole mess of interpersonal conflict there, performed by actors operating at the highest level. And that four-way dramatic sparring is all captured with a constantly changing set of aesthetic rules, from the early relaxed shots of the Italian countryside to later sudden tension-spiking zooms. You get a lot of value from this maximalist film that delights in its own lack of restraint, made never more evident than when Ralph Fiennes breaks into an insane, perfect dance number.
Most of us don't want to change, really. I mean, why should we?
One More Time with Feeling is a music documentary following Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds as they prepare their 16th studio album, Skeleton Tree, in the aftermath of the death of Nick's teenage son. Nick Cave financed the film himself with the intent of documenting his life in this moment, in order to avoid speaking about his loss with press in countless interviews. The results are, I would think, far more ambitious than Nick could have imagined, though. Director Andrew Dominic, who did The Assassination of Jesse James by the coward Robert Ford, creates a kind of dot collage here by blending performances of the new songs with a fairly profound set of interviews with Nick Cave. It's part concert film and part meditation on how difficult it is to come to really any conclusions at all in the wake of a tragedy that upends your life's direction. It's an otherworldly look at grief and its potential to destroy the artistic process. And it's just really, really affecting stuff. So much so that when I caught it in theaters, not one person in the audience was able to get up from their seat until the credits had rolled and the screen went dark.
We're not gonna be here that much longer.
I'm not moving to Boston, Uncle Lee.
No, I don't want to talk about that
You
right
said
now.
he left you money so you could move.
Yeah, that doesn't mean...
Anyway, what's in Boston? You're a janitor.
So what?
You could do that anywhere. There's plenty of toilets and clogged up drains all over town.
I don't want to
All my friends are here. I'm on the hockey team. I'm on the basketball team. I gotta maintain our boat now. I work on George's boat 2 days a week. I got 2 girlfriends, and I'm in a band. You're a janitor in Quincy. What the hell do you care where you live?
Manchester by the Sea is probably the most talked about dramatic movie of the year, and one I'm sure we're going to continue hearing about through the Oscars and after, so I'll keep it short. It's really, really well made. It's great. Casey Affleck is great as a solitary Boston handyman who returns to the town of Manchester upon hearing the news of his brother's death and is there forced to confront the life he left behind. Lucas Hedges is great as his brother's teenage son. The writing that's content to not find the perfect words for every moment as long as they're true words is also great, and the editing is especially great because this is a story with some key flashbacks to reveal. You get the idea. It's sad, it's funny, it's an obvious Best Picture contender, and all of the adjectives that go with that. But it's got the goods. It's grown on me a ton and made an impact for long after I left the screening, which is all I'm after in the first place.
Jesus Christ, what's your problem?
Are you having a breakdown?
I'm just freaking out.
You've got my attention. I promise I won't even blink. I actually don't think I even can blink. Do I have eyelids?
A formulaic epic adventure story serves as this film's backbone. It's a quest to acquire the tools to defeat an ancient and powerful adversary. But it's really the frank and pretty somber look at family history and accepting loss that make Kubo and the Two Strings one of the best American animated films I've seen. The project comes from Laika, the studio behind the similarly stunning Coraline and Paranorman, but when it comes to production, Kubo blows them and even most of Pixar's work away with its crisp and textured stop-motion animation. Laika is integrating story and animation here in ways I've only really seen matched from Japan's studio Ghibli. This is a story about the mythology of storytelling. It's the stories we tell to entertain, and the stories we tell ourselves to shape our understanding of our own worldview. The key to the film's success is how that narrative interacts with tactile objects in the world in unexpectedly emotional ways. There's Kubo's many uses of his ability to magically summon scraps of paper to construct massive origami structures. And then you've got the seriously moving realization of what the film's title means. Kubo and the Two Strings is a pure joy to discover and a perfect use of stop-motion animation. I think it should be a great point of pride in American cinema, and I hope it gets every animated award we have.
He's very powerful, but he still has much to learn. What?
Well, fast learner.
Yeah, it's good. Great.
Documentary cinematographer Kirsten Johnson compiles this visual memoir with unused footage from her documentaries, which include high-profile projects such as Citizen4, The Oath, and The Invisible War. These are scrap scenes that showcase the process of making a documentary, the small moments of connection between documenter and subject that don't make it into the final cut. That alone was plenty incentive for me to see this unusual doc, but the real surprise of Camera Person is how Johnson incorporates home videos from her life right into the clips from the award-winning films. There's footage of her kids growing up in here, and some tougher-to-watch material of her mother's fight with Alzheimer's. Altogether, Camera Person blurs the line between Johnson's personal and professional life, and gives the beautiful impression of a life lived through the camera. There's no narration, no clear chronology, and no explicit threads connecting one scene to another. All we do get is a title card before each scene stating the location of the footage we're about to see, and the rest is up to us. It's up to us to draw those connections between the lives of people all around the world immersed in completely different circumstances and challenges. So it's very painterly, but also very unifying as a look at life, and I think every viewer will get something a little bit different out of it.
Je peux te prendre une taf? J'en ai tellement envie.
T'en veux pas une entière?
Non, non, juste une taf. Moi aussi, j'ai une grande nouvelle à t'annoncer. Mon mari et moi, on se sépare. Je vais divorcer.
Divorcer? Faut que vous paraissiez si... je sais pas moi, si soudés.
Ouais, 25 ans de vie commune, bah tu vois, il s'est trouvé une autre nana. Voilà.
Ah merde. Je suis désolé.
Oh non, mais t'en fais pas pour moi, je pense que ça très bien.
I see you
This warm, humanistic film stars Isabelle Huppert as a philosophy professor and author who's pushed into a new, uncertain life when her husband leaves her for another woman. The excellent Mia Hansen-Løve writes and directs Huppert, whose career best performance here is the year's standout for me. Things to Come asks if intellectual fulfillment can be enough to survive an emotional tragedy. And the answer is yes and no, but how the film goes about seeking that answer makes for a relaxing but really ultimately inspiring experience. This one's pretty understated, but there is definitely a cumulative sense of revelation in watching Huppert find inner strength in the newly torn scraps of her life.
City of stars, are you shining just for me? City of stars, there's so much that I can't see. Who knows? Is this the start of something?
If you don't like musicals, you probably just haven't seen La La Land yet. Damien Chazelle returns after the huge success of 2014's Whiplash with this throwback old Hollywood musical about the budding relationship between a struggling actor, played by Emma Stone, and a jazz musician, played by Ryan Gosling. Now, I'm just kidding, of course. You don't have to like this movie, but I think you will because every department here is on fire. La La Land opens on an epic ensemble set piece set in a Los Angeles traffic jam and doesn't slow down a bit for the 110 minutes of sustained cinematic joy that follows. Like I said, every department just knocking it out of the park. The cinematography, the camera and lighting, the original music and choreography, and especially the chemistry between Stone and Gosling is all pure whimsy. And beyond the flash and glamour, La La Land still manages to tell a meaningful story about overcoming the disappointments and roadblocks involved in dedicating your life to a creative pursuit. And just like in Whiplash, Chazelle ultimately has something to say that's important to hear about what it takes to reach a certain level in skill and achievement. It's a home run for the filmmaker and a home run for Hollywood, who hasn't produced a musical this vibrant and original in a long, long time.
Give me your head. Hey, let your head rest in my hand. Relax. I got you, I promise. I'm not gonna let you go. Hey, man, I got you. There you go. 10 seconds. And that right there, you're in the middle of the world, man. That's good. Good luck, man. More athletic. There you go. I think you're ready. Think we got a swimmer. You wanna try? You ready to swim?
My immediate reaction to Moonlight was just to text a few people the word Moonlight, to which they responded, I know. Indeed, Moonlight seems to be by far the most critically acclaimed American film of the year, and it's not hard to see why as soon as the credits hit. It's just an absolute knockout. Told over 3 segments that cover many years and featuring 3 different actors in the lead role, Moonlight, the second feature from director Barry Jenkins, follows the childhood, adolescence, and early adulthood of Chiron, one kid growing up in 1980s Miami. Over the course of the film, we see how matters of circumstance lead to the alternating growth and diminishment of this complex human being. Of those circumstances that define Chiron's life, there is his addict mother, his fill-in father, played by Mahershala Ali, who is unbelievably good, and perhaps most importantly, his homosexuality. But while there's a moment of sexual awakening, this isn't that kind of film. Moonlight isn't striving for universality. This isn't the story of what it's like to be black in America or gay in America, but it is the story of what it's like for one character to be black and gay in America. And Jenkins, through this specific narrative, does lay bare many unfortunate truths about hard to confront topics such as bullying, poverty, and addiction. The three acts have different strengths and are interested in different modes of storytelling, but are covered in a unifying mood that places all three of them in the same distinct world. It's an essential film, and the quiet third act in particular is a stretch of filmmaking not to be missed this year. I could go on and on into what makes Moonlight the best film of 2016, but at the end of the day, this is something to be experienced, so go see Moonlight.
What did you expect?
All right, those are my picks for the 16 best films of 2016. I hope you saw a few of your favorites on my list and maybe picked up a couple that you hadn't heard of to seek out. If you enjoyed my commentary in this video, I'm going to be finally sticking to maintaining a Letterboxd account with my immediate reactions to new films in 2017 and later. So please follow me over there on Letterboxd. My profile link is in the description to this video. You'll also find a link down there to the archive of my written reviews. Thanks for watching.